If you grew up playing SEGA games, then you're probably aware of the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog is one cool dude. You don't even have to take my word for it. After all, everything that SEGA of America dumped into the marketing of this blue hedgehog was meant to appeal to the energetic, punky atmosphere of gaming as it sped into the 90s. Many players could start to notice the personality behind SEGA's new mascot before they even turned on their console. The manual for Sonic's first game uses a lot of vocabulary meant to elicit excitement, referring to Sonic as one tough dude. Everything he does is fast-paced, using energetic terms like swing, leap, dodge, and warp. Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't have moves or attacks, he has stunts. In fact, Sonic is so gung-ho that he can't even jump without going into his supersonic spin attack mode. And while his marketing material may be one thing, Sonic was certainly giving off substantial amounts of personality from the moment the game was turned on. You never see an enhanced version of Mario or Link's faces on those early Nintendo or Super Nintendo screens. Sonic even makes different expressions during gameplay for when he's waiting on the player or trying to regain traction while sliding. We wouldn't see another mascot this expressive until 5 years later when Crash Bandicoot came onto the scene. We also have to remember that Sonic's debut, while advertised around the concept of being fast and cool, wasn't just about Sonic and the player's ability to run unimpeded through Sega's new game. This was also a marketing campaign about the powerful new Genesis console, which came with Sonic the Hedgehog as the go-to pack-in title starting in 1991. The successful duo that was Genesis and Sonic is virtually the sole reason that Sega was able to momentarily control the console wars in North America. We'll figure out how this game made such a splash as we uncover what's so great about Sonic the Hedgehog. When Sonic the Hedgehog begins, much like the majority of early platformer games, all the player understands is that they need to start going to the right. If you weren't too excited to dive into this fresh new Genesis title, then you may have skimmed through the manual and picked up on the story behind this hedgehog. The plot of the game centers around the fact that Dr. Robotnik has trapped the local animal population in his evil robots. And while Sonic's goal is to simply confront and take down Robotnik, you are equally able to free this island's cute animal inhabitants by destroying Robotnik's robots. As a nice added detail, you can actually see the newly freed animal bouncing away as a robot is destroyed. But back to playing that first stage, Green Hill Zone Act 1. The player will immediately feel the difference in speed and gameplay from all other platformers out there at the time of this game's release. It doesn't take long to get situated and start enjoying everything this fast-paced game has to offer. To beat the first level, you really just have to hit the right directional button and occasionally jump. It feels a little more chaotic than this thanks to springs, ramps, and other occasional hazards, but it's straightforward enough for a new player to get the hang of controls and become a fan of the world before continuing on to more treacherous territory. If you do manage to mess up in the game's first few levels, you're most often punished by falling between platforms and being left in a section of the map ridden with more gaps and spikes that slow your progression and force you to either tread carefully or backtrack and attempt the smoother, higher route again. It isn't until later worlds that we start seeing a general presence of bottomless pits, and even then, you can pretty easily tell where they are. And there aren't too many gotcha moments that would cause you to careen to your death. As you continue on through Sonic's adventure, you may come to realize that you can't always sprint full out. And while that feels contradictory to the almost meme-based existence of Sonic as we know him today, if we take a step back, we'll realize what's going on. After all, Sonic the Hedgehog as a game is still a platformer, not a racing game. So you can't just hold down the button to go forward the entire time. No matter how interesting Sega made the world or music, everyone would still get tired of the hold the go button game. This title isn't just about speed in terms of how fast you're moving from one point in the game's world to the other, but also how fast you as a player are able to react. Keeping an eye on your surroundings and reacting quickly to either dangers or opportunities can make or break anyone's playthrough of Sonic the Hedgehog. Each of the game's 6 worlds are well characterized by different color palettes, hazards, and music, differentiating this from a platformer like Super Mario's earliest titles, wherein the worlds stayed generally static for your entire experience. The game's early levels feel vibrant, lively, and colorful. The robot enemies and other bits of machinery provide a nice aesthetic contrast. As you progress closer and closer to Robotnik as he retreats, the environments will also become more metallic and complicated. New mechanics are also continuously introduced throughout the course of the game's 6 worlds to keep things from getting stale. For example, in Act 1 of the Marble Zone, fire will spread on any platforms that sink into the lava from you standing on them. There's also a weight-based puzzle in Marble Zone that feels like something out of a side-scroller Legend of Zelda game. Next up, Springyard Zone takes the game in a more vertical direction. Obviously, getting to the end isn't going to be a straight shot, but the game still gives you exciting moments of speed by sending you flying up a vertical surface with the help of some pinball-inspired springs and bumpers. The following world, Labyrinth Zone, introduces water. Sonic moves more sluggishly in water and can only stay under for a certain amount of time. There's an audio cue well before you're actually in danger, but it gives you a reminder that you need to start looking for a source of oxygen, like an air pocket above you or a bubble floating from specific spouts on the level's floor. Each world's boss fight against Dr. Robotnik may also throw you a few curveballs. Your first fight against this villain, you'll receive a checkpoint directly before you're locked into your arena in case you need a couple attempts to get your bearings in combat. In fact, many of these fights will have checkpoints nearby, which helps balance the fact that if you fail once in an altercation with Robotnik, then you'll have to take him on in your next life without any rings to cushion the damage you'll take. The boss fights all have engaging means of incorporating threats from the levels themselves, such as the pendulums in the Green Hill Zone being a threat to the platforming capabilities of a new Sonic player, and the fire in Marble Zone being the first real environmental hazard, as well as the practice you had just been doing at timing jumps between platforms to maintain your safety and score. These hazards that you must face while pursuing Robotnik will become more and more complicated and fiendish as you chase him all the way back to his secret base. The level structure of Sonic the Hedgehog is a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure feeling, with the multitudes of routes that connect at various points along the game's length, seamlessly allowing you to experience different versions of the same stage across multiple plays. There are also easily memorized locations for power-ups and bonus points for any person playing this game repeatedly back in the day. The game's levels are all designed uniquely enough that a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog who's played this game for hours may very well have a specific routine down for the earlier levels on how to jump and spin at all the right spots to collect all the bonuses they can and reach the end in one smooth line, rewarding dedicated players with a satisfying sprint to the finish line. It also feels fantastic to continue your momentum as you bounce off of enemies and power-ups that you couldn't even see coming in a single consecutive path. The world doesn't often lock you into anything, like a rail system in some games that advertise a specific gameplay experience. For instance, in Sonic the Hedgehog, the loop-de-loop that Sonic is able to run across numerous levels is not a guaranteed event. You can observe yourself falling early or sliding back the way you came if you don't have enough momentum. If Sonic does any cool jumps or stunts, the player can be certain that it was thanks to their own smooth operation of the game's controls. The collecting and losing rings is an interesting mechanic for restoring health. It's still weighted against you by the fact that even if you have dozens of rings, they will all be knocked out of you upon impact, so it doesn't matter how many you have as long as it's at least one. The exception to this is the fact that collecting 100 rings will grant you an extra life, just as collecting 100 coins would in Super Mario Bros. What differentiates this from Mario's coins is the fact that your score and health are tied. If a Super Mario player has little interest in score, then they can generally avoid coins, or at least not specifically go out of their way to grab them. But for Sonic, his collectibles are tied to his safety, incentivizing the player to grab them when possible, just for a better chance of grabbing some of those rings that bounce out of you upon taking damage. This system is also tied to the fact that you'll need a certain number of rings to access each world's bonus zones, where you have an even greater chance of bolstering your odds of success. You're told to collect 6 Chaos Emeralds if you manage to make it to each world's secret zone, but you aren't told why, given that your overall goal is just to defeat Dr. Robotnik. Players who manage to do so will have a special ending awaiting them, however. You can also collect another Continue for every 50 rings accumulated in the special zone. This isn't just an extra life to try one more time, but a whole new set of 3 chances to continue from whichever world you made it to. If you're good enough at the game to reach every secret zone and collect all of the Chaos Emeralds, then your experience will become significantly easier thanks to your own abilities. The difficulty curve is actually well weighted towards the development of a player's skills. The better you are at the game, the more likely you are to collect a lot of rings, avoid losing them to enemies, reach the bonus stages as many times as possible, and save up all of those extra lives and continues in order to prolong your experience for the best possible chance of beating the game. Simply enough, the better you do, the more the game rewards you. As I mentioned in my Stardew Valley video, sometimes when a certain game comes along and dominates a genre, like Minecraft and sandbox games, or for the purposes of our analysis today, Super Mario and platformer games, it can be hard to see what else could possibly be done to expand on that style of video game. It's incredibly easy to look at a Super Mario Bros. Game, respective to its era, and say, yep, that's everything right about a platformer game. But Sonic the Hedgehog came out of left field and somehow created an equally enjoyable platformer title with different features and experiences in nearly every regard. The way damage is dealt, the way bonuses and power-ups are collected, how speed translates to maneuverability, the perks and punishments of a player's ability to do well, it's all very different, yet feels very right when all combined into a solid package. This isn't Mario but he goes faster, this is a completely different and respectable competitor to a titan of gaming recognizability. Early competition in the world of gaming is the reason video game genres aren't completely monopolized. The greatest aspect of that is the fact that it means there will always be another interesting way of doing things. Not necessarily a better way of doing them, but a different way, as gameplay, aesthetics, and the user experiences of video games change to find new audiences. Competition is great, and Sonic was a great competitor. SEGA butting heads with Nintendo is great motivation for established franchises to keep breaking new grounds, as well as independent developers to experiment with the way we look at games as the media grows in every regard. He may not have been the only good platformer to draw eyes away from Mario, but Sonic left a lasting impact and is still beloved in some way, shape, or form by gamers to this day, due to what a splash his first game made in the console wars and world of video games as a whole. That is what's so great about Sonic the Hedgehog. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of What's So Great About Gaming, as we sped through the cool aspects of Sonic the Hedgehog. Make sure to tell us what you think about Sonic the Hedgehog, or even suggest a game for another video. If you want to help in supporting the channel, or maybe see some bonus content, consider checking out our Discord, Twitch, or Patreon. Links for all of those are in the description. If you want to hear what's great about another game, check out the link to our last episode, Halo Combat Evolved, on screen or in the description. And please take the time to subscribe to be involved in the discussions here. Thanks again for watching. Now go play a great game. We'll see you next time.